Just a second. Okay. All right, guys. I again welcome you all to this DevOps master program. Obviously, it's going to be a 2 hour class every day. Okay, 2 hour, 1.5 hour class every day. But this time it's going to be a 1 hour session. This is just the induction. You can treat it as induction session or a webinar or a demo session, whatever you call it. So in this session, I'm going to explain you what are we offering in DevOps master program. How are you going to learn DevOps? What technologies are you going to learn? Or we can say the course syllabus or the curriculum, right? So also, what is the benefit of learning DevOps? DevOps is not a technology, first of all. It is the way of doing something or doing work, or you can say it's the mindset. Okay, so we'll talk about DevOps and it's, what is DevOps, why DevOps and all. Okay, so as we proceed. Right. So first of all, I would like to give my introduction. So my name is Amit, and I'll be your trainer for this live DevOps master course. And as I said, it's going to be a 1.5 or 2 hour class daily. And we are going to deep dive into, into the tools and practices, the real world application of DevOps, and yeah, like that. So as far as my professional background is concerned, I have more than 13 years of experience, started as a software developer, and then transitioned into a Linux administrator, then into automation engineer, then into automation architect, and then finally into DevOps consultant. So right now I'm working with an organization and at the same time working with NW Kings and delivering live classes on DevOps, Linux, automation, Ansible automation, and various other topics. Right. So see this teaching approach is going to be more on hands-on than on theory or theoretical. If you just want to check the numbers, like how much theory, how much practical, it's going to be like more than 90% of practical and 10% part is going to be the theory. And yes, to understand certain concepts, you need to read something. You need to read some paragraph, some lines, right? So that is the part. Otherwise, it's going to be a pure hands-on DevOps course, master program. Okay. All right. And guys, if you have any doubts and questions during this session, feel free to type it in the chat box. Okay. So in the middle of 2 or 3 slides, I'm going to take a break and, address all those questions. Right. Okay. So let's go to the next one. So what is this DevOps training program or the master program? First of all, we are going to understand the core concepts of DevOps, master the containerization with Docker, Kubernetes, build scalable, highly available, fault-tolerant infrastructure on AWS, set up GitHub to deploy production, as well as build on infra with Terraform. Build infra, Terraform is the infrastructure as a code automation. Okay. Although you can do it with Ansible as well. The good part is we're going to learn both Ansible and Terraform, right? So this is just the overview. Going forward, I'm going to explain what topics or what technologies are we going to learn, right? And yes, one very important part, which is the solid foundations on Linux. That is very much a kind of a prerequisite, very much required. We need to build a solid foundation on Linux because most of the tools work the best on Linux. I'm not talking about while practicing. I'm talking about while you are actually working. Maybe as a DevOps engineer, maybe as a automation engineer, you will be working mostly on the Linux servers, right? So you need to be well-versed with certain commands. In short, need to be comfortable with Linux. Okay. All right. And orchestrate and deploy containers in production-like environments with Kubernetes and on AWS with EKS service, Elastic Kubernetes service, right? Automate the cloud infrastructure with Ansible and Terraform. And yeah, so writing the Ansible code or the Terraform code like that. So this is the overview. What are we going to do? Obviously, there is a step-by-step procedure which I'm going to explain, right? Okay, so if you're wondering what a DevOps person is doing in its job, what does the DevOps engineer do? See, DevOps engineer is going to take input from the developers. That input can be source code or uh, an artifact and deploy it on the infrastructure. That infrastructure can be physical servers, virtual infrastructure like VMware, or on the cloud. Okay. It is not like pick up and just deploy. No, there are multiple tools in the middle. Okay. So a DevOps engineer will be master of multiple tools, will be able to connect those tools and create CI/CD pipelines, create orchestration for deployment on containers using Kubernetes. On the top, should be able will be automating everything. Okay, we'll be starting manually. Okay, so we'll be starting manually, like manually. Just for the sake of example, we'll be creating a small program in Python maybe. Okay, so create a Python application, deploy it on the servers, maybe a virtual machine, then take a step ahead with moving all the code into GitHub. Whenever there is a change on GitHub, automatically the application is deployed on the machines. And then we take the entire infra on the cloud and perform the same. Ultimately, we'll be jumping into the infrastructure automation with Terraform and Ansible. So where we don't have to do anything, automatically everything happens. Okay. So this is the overall idea, right? Okay, so I'm going to start with the Linux fundamentals for DevOps. Again, this is the overview. What are we going to learn? See, whenever we talk about infrastructure, DevOps, or platform, Linux is the key. If you are good with Linux, you will be really comfortable with other technologies, learning other technologies and using them. Okay. This is my experience, and obviously, I would also encourage everyone to learn Linux. If you know Linux, good. If you don't, you have to learn it. Okay, just one operating system, which is Linux, one programming language. I choose Python for this course. Okay, so maybe Linux, Python, and there are many other categories. We need to pick one or two tools. Okay. All right. So, what is the importance of Linux in DevOps? See, first of all, the Linux is the backbone for most of the development environments, DevOps environments, production, testing, you name it. Okay. And containers, you might have heard about containers, Kubernetes. They work the best with Linux machines. Okay. Again, for the cloud infrastructure as well, Linux is the backbone. Okay. So when we learn Linux, when we start learning Linux, we are going to learn the basic stuff first, like how to navigate the directories, not via GUI. Forget GUI for now. Using the commands. Okay, what are the commands used to navigate directories? Commands used to perform file operations like copy, move, remove, open the file for reading, find a text from a text file, etc. Okay, and we'll understand the basics of Linux directory structure. Right. So in short, we need to learn the basic tool set available in Linux. We need to understand the user management, permission management, and to certain level, file management as well. Sorry, the storage management as well. Okay, the hard disk management. Right. Optionally, we can also cover the firewall, the network part. Okay, so when we covered the network part, we are going to cover the SE Linux security, firewall security. I am going to associate these topics with Linux itself. Okay, so Linux will be a bundle of multiple topics. We are not going to learn Linux as a whole, not uh, not like certification level learning, but yes, enough to proceed with the course. Okay. It is not bare minimum, but somewhere in the middle. Okay. So I'll tell you what topics are we missing. In fact, I'll be giving you the entire Red Hat Linux PPT, which I use to deliver the Red Hat Linux course. Okay. So you can just, if you're really interested in Linux, you can cover it all. Okay. Otherwise, just stick to the curriculum of DevOps. right? Just after we finish Linux, we are going to learn shell scripting, the basic stuff, not the advanced level, the basic stuff. Okay, so shell scripting, like you should be able to create a simple shell script to maybe take a backup or install something or change the file permissions, etc., etc. Okay, so exposure to shell scripting will help you automate certain things at this level. So this is your first step in automation. Okay, within Linux, we have a topic of networking or network. Uh, as a DevOps engineer, it's really important to understand the basics of networking, IP, um, IP addresses, subnet mask, gateway, DNS, protocols, port numbers, right? All these terminologies, you should be well versed with that. Okay, so plus there are many practicals that we'll be doing on the Linux server itself to maybe change the IP address, change the maybe the DNS information, or run an application on a different port. What exactly is a port and protocol? When we understand that, then we'll move into the next part, which is run an application on a different port altogether. Okay. For example, a web server, HTTPD web server on Linux, it runs on port 80. But yes, you are the administrator. You can change the port 80 to something else. Okay. There are some steps involved. So we'll obviously check that. Okay. Right. Managing the services, start a service, stop a service, basic stuff, right? And as I said, permissions and ownership on the file, multiple labs throughout Linux course. In short, we are going to cover how much? 2 weeks, I guess. 2 weeks of time on Linux operating system. Okay. All right. Just a second. Okay. So just after we finish Linux, we're going to enter containers. Okay. So when you enter containers with some sort of automation, you are taking your first step into the world of DevOps. Okay. Um, what is a container? Container is a modern way of deploying applications. Quick, rapid deployment. Uh, Containerization makes the application portable, which means the same container file can be used on your machine with different configuration, on a different machine with a different configuration. Okay, so it's highly portable, easy to manage, easy to distribute. So there are many good things associated with containers. Okay. And when multiple applications are running, interacting with each other, then you need to have a manager which manages all these applications, and there Kubernetes comes into picture. Okay. So containers, you can take it as a ship. In fact, let me show you one thing. So let's search the logo for container, Docker container. It's like a ship, right? You can see this is the Docker container logo, and then logo for Kubernetes. So it looks like a steering of a ship, right? That steering which is used by the captain to steer the ship left, right, and all. Okay, so this Kubernetes is that main component which drives the containerization or container platform, containerized applications. It's intercommunication, communication within the containers and with the outside world. Everything is handled by Kubernetes. It also provides you features like self-healing. Let's say one container application stops automatically, it will try its best to start it again, bring it up online. High availability, load balancing, um, auto scaling, vertical scaling, horizontal scaling, everything is possible with Kubernetes. Okay, so we're going to cover all these things, right? Uh, okay, so just a small topic, which is the DevOps life cycle. See, when we talk about the DevOps life cycle, mm, you have a problem, you plan for the resolution, you code for it. When you code for it, you build an artifact. That artifact can be a container image or it can be some sort of executable file. For example, in the case of Java application, the build is going to create a war file, right? In the case of, let's say, Python application, you want to containerize it, you will get a container file as an artifact. Okay. Then test that application, release, deploy, operate, monitor, feedback. So this is the never ending chain. Okay, so you are not going to develop anything. You are going to make sure whatever is necessary to deploy the application on the server, you are taking care of it. Okay, it can be the knowledge of virtual machines, knowledge of cloud, knowledge of containers, Kubernetes, automation, Git, GitHub, everything in the middle. Okay. Right. So as I said, many tools will be used when we are actually deploying the applications. Okay. So first is the Git and GitHub. See, Git and GitHub, uh, Git is used for version control, and GitHub is the remote repository for your source code. Okay. And you can actually link the project, or we can say the source code on GitHub with your environment, with your let's say deployment environment. It can be production, it can be testing, staging, like that. Okay, so we are going to learn Git with GitHub, Jenkins for pipelines, CI/CD pipelines. What is CI/CD? Continuous integration and continuous delivery. Let me just give you an example. Okay, let's say you deployed or you have created a Python app. It's a web app. You host it on GitHub. The source code is on GitHub now. Okay. Now you have installed and set up Jenkins. Jenkins is going to detect if there is any change on the source code on GitHub. If there is, then Jenkins is going to initiate some actions. Action number one, maybe clone the new source code, clone the code, and create a container file out of it. Okay, we say build container file, or let's say build. Okay, so clone the code and build the artifact and push the artifact to the registry or to the artifact manager tool, whatever you're using. If it is a container, then we'll be using the Docker Hub to push the container image into the registry. Okay, so these terminologies might fly over your head. Don't worry, I'm going to explain all these things later on. So this is the idea behind, this is the idea that I'm going to, we are going to implement when we are actually doing labs, hands-on labs. Okay, so build, push to registry, and then deploy to the server. And the server can be on your virtual infra, let's say VMware, or on the cloud, like that. Okay, so this is the cycle happening in the middle. So developers will stop here, and after this, you will be in the picture. Okay, so you need to learn Jenkins. Okay, so you need to learn how to configure Jenkins that it connects to GitHub, clones the code, builds the artifact, pushes to registry or the artifact manager, deploy the application on the VMware, on the cloud, on the physical machine, like that. Okay, plus plenty of other concepts are there with Jenkins. Okay, but this is the overview, right? So this is all continuous integration and continuous delivery. Multiple tools will be used. Okay, and when we talk about the container orchestration, as I said, Docker or the containers basics, along with Kubernetes, we'll be learning the architecture of Kubernetes, like what are master nodes, pods, deployment services, rolling updates, rollbacks, self-healing, auto scaling, all these things. Okay. So when we cover the basic stuff, we are going to move to the cloud. And in the cloud, we are going to cover AWS. Okay. So in AWS, we'll start with EC2, like a virtual machine on the cloud, EC2 machines. Okay. EC2, S3 storage, databases, RDS, Lambda functions, and uh, VPC. When we cover networking, we'll be talking about VPC as well. Subnets and all, we'll be creating subnets in VPC, connecting to the internet gateway and stuff like that. Okay. And plenty more things in AWS. Okay. So AWS itself is really big. But again, as I said, when we are into DevOps, it's not like you need to be, master of all the tools. No, you need to understand the concepts. You should be well versed with the topics that you're learning. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to learn all the services which are offered by AWS. Normally, if you check AWS console, you will see more than 200 services are being offered. Do you need to learn all these 200 services with DevOps master plan or master program? No, not necessarily. We'll be learning all those services which are required. Okay. Okay, that's a separate case if you are into AWS certification program. Then yes, you'll be learning all these services. Okay. Right. And then we'll jump into the automation, the infrastructure as a code automation with the help of Terraform. Okay, so how Terraform connects with AWS? How can you automate the server build, VPC build, deployment of EKS cluster, and many more things. Okay. At the same time, the Ansible for the configuration management. For example, you are asked to install certain packages on test server, production server, and staging server, quality assurance servers. All these servers, you need to prepare the servers for the project. So maybe preparing the server needs installation and configuration of 10 tools. Are you going to really, I mean, just log into every machine one by one and perform the installation all by yourself? Obviously not. You need a tool. So you will be using Ansible configuration management tool, which is also considered as infrastructure as a code automation tool as well. Okay. So it works both the ways. It can also connect to AWS, create machines, can do variety of stuff. Okay, but for now, we'll be using Terraform strictly for AWS automation and Ansible for configuration management. So Ansible will connect to the servers automatically, deploy the services, start and enable the services, configure the services. Whatever you say or whatever you instruct to Ansible will happen. It will save a lot of time. Okay, your time will be saved. In fact, these days in my organization itself, when I joined as an automation engineer in my current organization, there were like 200 people working under this project. And they hired me because they wanted to just shrink the size of the team. And the best way to shrink is to automate the BAU, business as usual, which is the daily routine work. So from the last 3 years, I have been working on reduction of manual labor. Most of the automation, most of the work is now automated, is also scheduled, which means Ansible automatically initiates automation, no human intervention required. So you can specify what time, what day, for example, operating system patching or updates. So servers need to be updated. In our case, in the contract, it's written once a month. Okay. So typically updates are really straightforward. So if there is no exception in the process of update, the automation is used. The Windows team and Linux teams are scheduling the updates on Ansible, and Ansible automatically starts the automation, the update automation. Okay. So there are more than 2000 servers which are handled by Windows team and 1000 servers by Linux team. Okay, so all are automatically patched, automatically updated. Okay, it is all with the help of Ansible. So right now, these 2000 servers are on virtual infra, okay, like VMware vSphere. But what about the cloud? Yes, Ansible can also connect to the cloud. Okay, so there are another 2000 more servers on the cloud, all are Linux, running on AWS. So yes, we use a mix of Terraform, Ansible for configuration management, infrastructure as a code, and the same I'll explain you with real-time examples. Okay. Right. And the last part is observability and monitoring and logging as well. See, when you have a set of tools, or we can say tool set, it's really important to monitor what's happening at what stage. So you can set up observability using logs as a source, and you can use the tool like Prometheus and Grafana. You can set up alerting, incident management. You can set up many other things. Okay. So this is the last part that we'll be covering. And before that, we have plenty of things to cover. Like I said, starting from Linux to shell scripting to containers, Kubernetes, maybe Kubernetes later on, not immediately. Otherwise, you'll be overwhelmed with the level of learning and technology. Okay, so we'll stick to containers for now, then into GitHub, Git and GitHub, Python. After Python, we'll get into Jenkins, and then we'll start with AWS and so on. Okay. All right. So how do we train for your success? So what is the method? Method is, as I said, it's all real-time practice. Whatever we learn by doing. If you're learning AWS, I'll be logged into the AWS account. I'll be doing it live. If it is automation, I'll be typing the source code for the automation and I'll be performing the automation. Obviously, we will learn the concepts first and then we'll get into the labs and all, right? And with every topic, there will be a mini project. You can say mini lab or lab. Okay. Once we cover multiple topics, then we'll be having lab incorporating all those tools. So maybe after a few weeks, we are going to have these kind of labs. Okay. And one more thing, guys. So from the trainer side or from my side, we try our best um, to take examples from real life. Okay. They might be a little bit complex. On your side, you need to replicate that. Okay. So if you feel that it is, time taking, spend that time. If you encounter issues, errors, don't worry. You can keep a note of the errors, the problems, and in the next class we can discuss. Okay. In fact, the first thing we are going to do is we're going to deploy a virtual machine on a laptop. Okay. So I would want everyone to understand how the installation of Linux operating system works, right? So we will be deploying a virtual machine on the laptop. If in case you're not able to, then no worries. Show me your screen, share your screen, and I'll help you with that. Okay. So this is just one example. Going forward, there will be many things. Okay, so just a second. Yeah. So this is the course timeline, which can be plus minus 2-3 weeks. Okay. So starting with the Linux operating system, the DevOps fundamentals in Linux, which we will cover in 1 to 2 weeks. Automation and scripting, which is Ansible automation, shell scripting. It also includes containers in week 3 and 4. Programming Python in week 5 and 6. Jenkins, GitHub, all these things, week 7 and 8. Cloud computing with AWS, week 9 and 10. In fact, we can also go to week 11. Okay, if you guys need more time. Okay, infrastructure as a code, the Terraform, week 11 and 12. Kubernetes and monitoring, week 13 and 14, and advanced DevOps project, future trends, etc., week 15 and 16. Okay, so just take roughly 4 to 5 months because there are Saturdays, Sundays, and all. It's going to be a weekday class, 1 hour, 1.5 hours to 2 hours a day. Okay, so depending on the topic, we will spend 2 hours or 1.5 hours accordingly. Right. One more thing. Let me just show you one thing, guys. Hold on. Where is my file? Just a second, guys. Okay, so let me open whiteboard. Just a second, guys. Here it is. Okay, copy and paste. Oh, what happening? Why? Copy, paste. Okay, I have a better option. Okay, so this will be the approach. While we are starting with DevOps, we need to be sure what are we going to learn and what will be the method. So this is the learning method of DevOps. First of all, the manual. Okay. So what are we going to do? We are going to, first of all, learn the prerequisites. The prerequisites are Linux operating system, one, uh, one programming language. We will take Python, basics of containerization, and GitHub. Okay. So once it is done, then we'll move into this sort of flow. First, we create a program in Python, move it to GitHub, deploy a container file out of the source code, and deploy the app on the machine. Okay. So this is, you can say, as manual deployment, local setup. We'll be doing everything locally on your virtual machine, maybe. Okay. Step number two will be automate. How to automate? Using Jenkins. Okay. So then it comes the learning of Jenkins, right? So your source code is on GitHub. Jenkins is going to connect with GitHub, also create the container file, push to registry, and from the registry, deploy the application on the server. Okay. So again, right now it's happening on the virtual machine, maybe on your laptop. Okay. Then automation on the cloud. Instead of the virtual machine, now everything happens on the cloud, which means Jenkins is configured on the cloud on a server. Uh, it will connect to GitHub using webhooks, and accordingly, the next steps will be the same. Okay. This time, everything is happening on the cloud. And the last thing is going to be infrastructure automation. You don't have to set up a EC2 server, cloud server manually, install Jenkins manually. No, we'll be using infrastructure as a code automation like Terraform tool. We will set up the servers, blank servers with the operating system. Next, we will use Ansible to connect to those servers, install Jenkins, configure Jenkins, and create the pipelines and all. And that's it. Whenever there is a commit on GitHub, whenever the code changes, automatically Jenkins will detect and deploy the application on the virtual machine on the cloud or on the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. So whatever technology we are going to learn, we are going to perform these labs. So you can say these are the labs that we are going to perform. And this is how we are going to learn DevOps, learn by doing. It's not like you learn a topic, then jump to the next one, jump to the next one. No. Once we learn few the prerequisites, we're going to jump into these labs. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. So any doubts till now? Any questions? Okay. Again, if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. In fact, I have also prepared a documentation on how we will move with these kind of labs. So there are some phases, right? Like phase one, manual deployment. The objective will be to use the Python and Flask to deploy a web application. As simple as hello, just print hello on the screen. But we will try our best to, incorporate the database, maybe a notes taking app, very easy, very simple, or maybe data gathering app, email and phone number gathering app. Okay, so we will be storing the data on any database. We can choose SQLite, which is a file level database, or MySQL, a standard database server. Okay, whatever it is, and we will use the source code, push it to the GitHub. Okay, before GitHub, we will just directly use it on the server. Okay, which means install the required packages like Python, Flask, and all, and run the Flask application. Manage the port numbers, because when you use the Flask application, you need to open the port 5000 so that from outside you can access the application. Okay. Next step will be to move the code to GitHub. Okay. Initialize the repo, push the code to GitHub. Next step is to clone the repository on the server where you will convert that application, deploy the application on the same machine. Okay. And so on. You can see the automation with Jenkins and, like that. So everything is, aligned with the topics that we are going to learn. And accordingly, we are going to proceed further. Okay. So there is a chat. Hold on. Okay. So regarding the course, how are we going to proceed with the course and all? Okay, so first thing, I'll be using a mix of slides, documents like Word documents, and ebooks. Okay, Not everything can be incorporated in slide, but the things which could be, I have the slides ready. Okay, so I'll be giving you the access to a Google Drive, which contains all the slides, ebooks, documents, and some extra books. Okay, apart from this course. Plus, whatever we do or whatever we learn, I'll be making these kind of notes on Notepad. So on the same Google Drive, you'll be getting the notes on daily basis. Okay, if someday I'm not creating a note, never mind. Maybe next day, yes. So that note will be present on that Google Drive. Okay. So whatever data or the material I'm using right now for this webinar, so that also will be present on the same Google Drive, right? Along with the course curriculum, etc. Next, there is a question by Chandan. What are the prerequisites to know before learning DevOps? So as I said, you literally need not to worry about the prerequisites, because the prerequisites we are going to learn initially. We will start with Linux, as I said, shell scripting, containers. In the middle, there is networking also, under the basics of networks. Okay. Okay. Containers and Ansible automation. Because at this level, when you learn Linux networking shell container, you are ready to deploy applications, configure applications. So Ansible kind of is prerequisite here. So using Ansible, you can connect to multiple Linux servers and perform the automation. Okay, you don't have to do anything manually. Okay, once it is done, then we are going to follow this. Like I said, GitHub, container, etc., etc. Right. So don't worry about the prerequisites. We are going to cover from scratch.
And sir, is there any project or something that we supposed to we are gonna cover in this?
So as I said, multiple projects at every level, and then there will be one big 2 or 3 tier application which we'll be deploying on AWS. That is the last part.
Okay, okay. And guys, one more thing. In the beginning of this session, we already explained. This time we are coming with the lab solution. So means it's a extra. If in case if you want to take it, if you don't want to take it, it's totally your call. Like a networking is providing a lab access. Generally, what you need to do, you need to add your credit card on AWS portal, and on the pro data basis, you need to pay the charges. But this time, it's approximately 10-12,000 rupees cost, where you'll get a access to practice everything on AWS platform for next 6 months. Now, if in case you are already enrolled, you can take it our services, or if you don't want to take it our services, you can create your accounts on AWS portal.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Gaurav.
Okay, sir.
All right, guys. So yeah, so this is it in DevOps curriculum. This is the plan that how I we going to learn DevOps. Again, DevOps is not one technology; it's a combination of tools. So when we start the first class, I'm going to show you many more things, like how DevOps evolved. Like you can see here, DevOps evolved from here when everything was manual, step by step. At every step, one new tool was introduced, like Jenkins for CI/CD, then on the cloud, then cloud automation, like that. So it's a series of tools and programs that we need to learn basically, right? And guys, as I said, it's going to be a 1.5 to 2 hour class daily. It's a weekday class, 5 days a week. Right. And yeah, so I'll be sharing the Google Drive link with you all, so you can download the course material on day one. Up to you. You want to proceed, step by step, or just get all the course material. The dump is already ready. Okay. So the recorded classes, the daily classes which are live, will be recorded and will be uploaded to student portal. You'll be getting the access to the student portal just after you enroll, and then you can revisit, replay the classes as many times you want. Okay. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Gaurav, over to you. Um,
Guys, any question, anything that you want to ask me or Amit sir? And guys, we are adding a last 5 hours for this program as an interview preparation. Okay. In last 5 hours, we are gonna discuss about how to crack the interviews and all. And additionally, we already deliver few batches on interview preparation. So we'll give you that videos also. And even Amit sir is gonna help you for 3 to 4 hours. Like what are the questions generally companies are asking in the DevOps interviews. Okay.
Yeah, that will be actually ongoing within the course with every topic. There will be a kind of a practice session with multiple slides in the middle. There are interview questions like that.
So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Amit.
guys, everyone. Thanks for joining. Let's meet when we start the actual classes. Till then, bye bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.